Hey everybody, just wanted to give my thoughts on the final two episodes of Maul Shadow Lord and just kind of a season wrap up of my thoughts on the show as a whole. And obviously, these two episodes were definitely the kind of peak of the show. We get to this final battle, and you know, the of course, biggest part of that is the reveal of Vader at the end of episode 9. And I mean, this has some of the best animation that you're going to see in a Star Wars show. The fight is just frenetic and just some of the best stuff you're going to see. It moves the plot, kind of to where we all expected it was going to be, and overall, just a great episode. These two episodes. I mean, this is some of also the best Vader that we've gotten since the hallway scene in Rogue One. I mean, there's been some good Vader stuff. I mean, obviously, some of the stuff in Obi-Wan was really good. But as far as kind of prime Vader rage monster, this is some of the best stuff. I mean, he is almost portrayed more like a Jason Voorhees than what you think of as Darth Vader. He is just, I mean, even the way that they introduce him, where they've kind of they've lost a lot of their crew. They're trying to get to the ship because now Dryden Voss is coming in to pick them up, and they get out into this misty area, and Rook goes out to scout, and she comes running back that there's something out there, in the way that he just grabs her with the force and just drags her into the fog, and you hear her get taken out. And then just as the kids say, steps out into the fog, and aura farms for a minute. And the fight with Vader, I mean, it's just great. And I mean, he's silent. He doesn't talk, which is very respectful of James Earl Jones. But I mean, that's the thing, though, is that they have the voice rights. They paid his family greatly while he was still alive to lock that down. So I mean, they could have used his voice. They could have re-speeched it. But I think that it really works here to just have him be this silent rage monster. I think it just works really good. And that continues, obviously the bulk of the fight is in the final episode. Where, eventually we get to where, Devon's master, Docky, gets killed. She doesn't see that Maul kind of pushes him to, Vader while he, limps off. Which, of course, is ultimately her push, over to, Maul and kind of embracing the dark side a bit. So now we have a table set for, presumably Devon to become some sort of facsimile of Darth Talon. And again, this gets back into my main problem with the show. Why? What is it for? And yes, I'm, unfortunately one of these, Star Wars nerds who reads all the stuff that, bubbles up and comes out and, gets talked about. So, it's like, yeah, I know all about, George's stuff and what those sequels were originally supposed to be, had Bob Iger not been a jackass and tossed George's treatments in place of, trying to pursue some kind of nostalgia bait sequel trilogy. And this sets the table so nicely for what George had in mind for 7, 8, and 9. with Maul and Talon being, basically, Maul as like the kind of emperor figure and Talon being the Vader. And, you know, I can't believe that they're doing this just to fill in some gaps with Solo. Like, for me, there has to be something more. My understanding is they're already working on season 2 from everything I've read. So, I mean, obviously we're going to get more into that training of Devin. So, who knows? I mean, could they retool this whole thing for, some form of adaptation of George's 7, 8, and 9? They could be. I mean, obviously, the elephant in the room with doing that is the fact that they killed Maul in Rebels. But, again, we've seen Maul get killed before. He is a dark side rage monster who perpetuates himself through, just sheer hatred. But I don't know. I mean, you could certainly, take elements that were abandoned from Trevorrow's Duel of the Fates script, where, Devin, after losing her master, kind of goes out on her own and maybe seeks out Tor Valum and learns and trains under him and then goes into hiding until the Empire is done. You could have Tor Valum be like, look, you got to lay low until all of this is wrapped up. The Emperor's going to go bye-bye soon enough. Once he's fully done, then we'll, push forward and, let me send you to this other Sith Lord in, hiding, waiting for Palpatine's reign to crumble. Because maybe there's, a different goal, a different something. I mean, there's ways about it, that you could tweak things given the kind of Disney status quo of where the universe sits at this moment. But, like I said, we'll see. I mean, it could all just be just filling in this weird little gap to explain where Darth Maul became the Lord of the Underworld, which, like I said, to me, it's not that Solo's not deserving of that kind of lore fill-in. It's just that it seems pointless. Like, okay, we're going to get this Maul, crime lord series. Maybe we get 2 or 3 more seasons that go through him. Season 2, takes us up to Solo, and then season 3 is his downfall. How he gets out of that and then ends up, where he is for Rebels, and then, Devin turns on him, goes back to the light. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just me spinning my wheels on what could be, but, if you take it and separate it out from, all of that, it's a solid Star Wars show. I mean, it's one of the better Disney Star Wars products out there. And I think it's well worth your time to actually dive in and watch it. I would definitely recommend it. But, we'll see where it goes. I don't know. I mean, we could get a teaser, Star Wars Celebration's going to be coming up, sooner than later. And maybe we'll get some stuff there. Who knows? But in the meantime, Maul Shadow Lord, very solid Star Wars, very good stuff. Definitely recommend watching it. But, definitely check some of your nerdier Star Wars deep knowledge of what was supposed to be at the door, and that'll help you cut down on some of that frustration of kind of, what a lot of this is telegraphing. Let me know what you think of Maul Shadow Lord in the comments, and see you in the next video.